Transportation Committee of February of Community Board 4. You had probably in your package or in online an agenda. So as usual, we are doing this on Zoom because it was required and now it's convenient. And for more people to participate, how many public members we have participating, Janine?
Yeah.
There's 20. There's 5 in the attendee section.
Okay. And so we are going to hear from the presenters, the board, the committee members will ask their question. We'll open that to the public, and then we come back and then discuss it and take a vote. And we've been joined by our chair, Jeffrey Lefrançois. Thank you, Jeffrey, for joining us. And we're going to start with the first item, which is the Empire State Development to present a revised lighting plan for the Highline Connector project. And I just want to give you a little bit of a background. It was, I don't know, 1 or 2 months ago that ESD came to us with a presentation of how the High Line would look like, the extension of the High Line, which happened to be on 30th Street and Dyer Avenue, would look like. And we complained pretty loudly on the fact that the lighting was going to look like a highway lighting and not a pedestrian lighting. And we also wanted to see some greenery around that. So the ESD now is coming back. Doug Carr from ESD is coming back with a proposal. They have listened to our comments and they have a proposal. So I'm turning it over to you, Doug.
Okay, thank you. Janine, did you have a presentation of ours, or would you like me to pull it up?
You can pull it up. I don't think I've received it.
I can pull it up, Doug.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would like to receive a copy when you're done, right?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. And before I start, I'd like to let everybody know I'm joined by Kim Van Holsbeek, who is one of the design partners from SOM from our side, to help go through the presentation and explain some of the considerations and design adjustments that we've made in response to the feedback from Community Board 4. So to start on the presentation, we can go to the next slide. Just a reminder, come in the next slide. Not going to dwell too much on kind of what the existing condition and what the proposed is. The rendering, 2 bridges connecting on a north-south. The east-west portion of the bridge will be what we call the Woodlands Bridge, the immersive landscape experience, where we are taking advantage of the depth that we have within the container structure to add species of plantings and trees that are not found elsewhere on the High Line, given the capacity that we have in that area. And then that transition to the Dyer Bridge, which is a timber Warren Truss bridge connecting into Manhattan West. Next slide. So the last time that we were designing, Kim, which slide is this?
This is the street level.
Okay, let me just see.
Let's see.
Yeah, so last time we were presenting, we heard and from CB4, that the project should, not just be about the top level, and, certainly our objectives, also translate to the street level and are very consistent, we feel, with the Hudson Yards Hell's Kitchen Street Improvement Plan, which we have also consulted, fairly closely, understanding that that was part of the vision for the neighborhood. So we have certainly been through that document fairly closely and, understand, it's not just about the top level. Some of the objectives that we have been, trying to achieve above and below is improved safety, is the beautification of the neighborhood, the improved connectivity to the west side and transit infrastructure, a rationalization of street and traffic patterns to help reduce vehicle and pedestrian conflicts, and by its nature, the increase of public space by extending the High Line. On the next slide, last time we outlined, several considerations and requirements which need to be achieved as part of the program. Our lighting approach, generally was driven, largely to provide DOT compliant lighting along 30th Street portions and Dyer portions. This was being achieved through DOT approved fixtures, which were integrated within the bridge elements. This was 7 97-watt fixtures, which were kind of the DOT standard. As a reminder, last time on the Woodland Bridge portion, we have used an enhanced fixture that we have cleared with the Port Authority. And so we focused most of our efforts based on the comments we received last time from CB4 on the 30th Street portion. Next slide.
Great.
But over the time, this is our third presentation to the board. We have also heard your comments from past presentations, which, essentially, I think Christine laid it out, which has challenged our project to address some of the following. Planters and streetscape to be considered at street level. So a greening of the pedestrian bridge underneath. Number 2 was the downlights on the underside of the 30th connector bridge looked harsh and bright. That the DOT lighting fixtures, they wanted a review of how we were achieving DOT standards. And it included a recommendation of reducing the burden of the underside lights by utilizing other opportunities such as additional Cobra head light fixtures. So where are we today? Last time we presented was, the raised curb extensions. In addition to the raised curb extensions, was an addition and incorporating additional planters in clustered planters at 6 of the locations of the columns. That is not to limit them to 6. These 6 locations actually represent 17 planters in total. And this plan was coordinated prior to the last meeting with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which does have plans of utilizing their property, which this is being built on, to support the Port Authority bus terminal renovations. So this plan was specifically crafted, respecting future operational needs for the Port Authority and allowing them to reconfigure this space without needing to reconfigure. Where are we today? We understand that CB4 has discussed additional planters with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and the Port Authority was amenable to adding additional locations. The main locations are in the center portions of those column lines. However, I will underscore, and it's important to note, that the Port Authority is not a financial sponsor of this project, and that this project is being delivered on a fixed budget basis, consistent with board approved and control board funding authorizations from ESD. However, the Port Authority has agreed, and we have reconnected with them via our ongoing coordination for this, and we believe that we are able to achieve planters at 12 column locations. If we take a similar clustered approach, those 12 planters can result in up to 30 variety size planters adjacent to all connector column locations. Excellent. With regard to the street lighting updates, we took the feedback from CB4 and we incorporated the recommendations and have added 2 additional Cobra headlights on the south sidewalk of West 30th to help support and provide the DOT required lighting for the south side of 30th. This was important because it has further enabled us to reduce the burden and specifically reduce the wattage of the 7 underside fixtures that were previously providing and serving as part of that DOT requirement. So the fixtures, by adding the Cobra heads, we have been able to reduce the wattage of the existing fixtures from 97 watts to 60 watts, which is roughly a 35% reduction in intensity of lighting. Furthermore, we have rotated the light fixtures and moved them ever so slightly. So they are now more located, and there will be a slight rotating and filter that will reduce the spot intensity at the sidewalk while maintaining the DOT requirements. So we feel that this is an appreciable improvement and specific response to the harshness and brightness of the lighting conditions under the bridge. We also wanted to provide some context into what a normal pedestrian lighting level would be. And to give us context, we had our team go out and do photometric readings throughout the neighborhood and throughout the city to be sure it was consistent with pedestrian-friendly environments and normal street conditions in New York City. So what you can see is, here's a couple examples of the readings and photometric readings, showing anything, ranging from a 3.2 foot candles kind of at door entries on normal city sidewalks, ranging from, storefronts can give you some hotter points, ranging on the higher side, and, kind of a typical scaffolded, section, which is achieving about a 5 level in foot candles. So that's to provide a little bit of context. So where are we in terms of our bridge? By adding the 2 additional Cobra headlights, we've been able to, as I mentioned earlier, reduce the intensity and the wattage of the lights. In addition to the angling of the lights, we are achieving readings and design readings of about 2 foot candles average in the pedestrian section under the 30th bridge. To give you a bit of further more context, an average of 2 foot candles is similar to standard New York City public plazas. It is the standard that the Highline egress stairs have been designed to at 2 foot candles. And as a point of comparison, the Highline standard pathway averages about 1.5 foot candles. And in summary, what we have done, I think, to circle back to some of the objectives of the project, we feel that the project is responding to, several of the items, including safety, including sidewalk and crosswalks connections between 10th Avenue, Dyer Avenue, and West 31st Street, the addition of curb extensions, the improved traffic management. As another takeaway of the project, the beautification of the neighborhood. I think the extended High Line on the top side is fairly obvious by the addition of public green space, but also on the lower portion, the opportunity to include up to 30 planters to provide a sense of pedestrian scale and protection. Further, connectivity in the neighborhood, providing ADA accessible paths above and below. And we hope to be specifically responsive to the request for greenery at street level by incorporating some of the planters and the reduction of harshness and lighting. And I think most importantly, we feel strongly that the project, provides a fully funded plan to expedite long-term improvements, which specifically address some of the HYHK Alliance's street improvement plans, and specifically their most ambitious and costly improvement plan called for in that document is being achieved through the Highline project. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions and go into any more detail as necessary. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you. Can you reduce that a little bit, or I just wanted, or everybody can you raise your hand if you want to talk? Yes, Dale.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks so much for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. Just on a technical note, the text mentioned that there were 2 new Cobras, but the diagram showed 4. Which is correct?
So it's
So-
four total. Kim, you can jump in if I get anything out of line here. We originally had 2 Dale, which was why we were relying a little bit more on the additional wattage of the fixtures under the bridge. By adding the additional 2, we've been able to kind of reduce that burden. So it
I
went from
see.
2 to 4.
So 2 new for a total of 4 on the street. Okay.
Correct.
And then I think I missed the note that you made about the plantings. We know that the High Line relies on like native species and even like native ecosystems, like experiences of native. Are you saying that it's not going to be that, or it's going to be based on that? I didn't catch it.
Kim, you can back me up here, but the majority of the High Line lacks depth, soil depth. And the ability of building new, we are building these containers specifically on the 30th section, where we have essentially the most depth of any location across the High Line, which allows us to incorporate trees and plantings that require additional depth. So it'll be something that's different, something that's diverse, and kind of taking advantage of the new structure we are able to kind of add and maximize our soil depths.
That's correct. But there would be New York State based plant species, et cetera. So that's in spirit of the High Line, but it just gives the depth of soil, gives opportunities for larger scale, but also some different species that you don't typically see on the High Line.
Oh, I see. So you are taking some cues from the High Line in the sense that they're native species, but then you're also taking advantage of the soil condition. Okay, great. Those were all my questions, Christine.
Okay. David Warren.
Hi, thank you for coming again to the committee. I should know this, but I don't. So this is going to be below the High Line on street level is what you're talking about. Is that correct?
Yes, David. So what you're seeing is kind of the cross section here. The upper portions, I think, we've covered probably in our early presentations. That is the landscaped walking paths, fully lit, uplighting and kind of the species of trees. The past 2 presentations that we've been talking about is kind of, addressing some of the underside locations, the sidewalk experience.
Okay, on the underside, maybe where the street is, will there be a protected bike lane? And also, is there any possibility where you can get secure bike parking, like an only type thing? I mean, how is that going to work? Or that's totally out of your equation?
That's out of our purview. I can't really speak to the DOT plans on bike plans. I'm sorry, but that's not in the purview of this project.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Viren?
Oh, Viren is there. Yes.
Yes, just a very quick question. Thank you for the presentation and for coming back again. You might have answered this question and I might have missed it, but if instead of adding 2 more Cobra lights, is there a way for you to take advantage of the planters themselves at the street level, at the sidewalk level, and add more lighting as part of that? Or have you already done that?
I think I got your question, Viren. Would you mind kind of rephrasing or just restating that?
Yes, let me rephrase it. You might have already covered it. The question is, instead of adding additional lights and reducing sort of candles, is it possible for you to incorporate lighting at the sidewalk level within the planters or along the planters and not add any more lighting above?
If I remember correctly, you had
Wait.
showed us a.
Yes, wait, Doug is going to answer.
Go ahead.
Hold
Yeah.
on,
so,
Dale.
I think you were on the right track. So what we did show originally, so Viren, I don't think the integrated lighting within the planters is a substitute for the underbridge lighting. It would be supplementary. And what we were able to do was in the 6 column locations, we were able to, as an option, include integrated lighting within those planters. I will mention, and this is back to, the authorizations for the project and the budget. If we extend to include the 12 column locations, which would represent closer to 30 planters locations. I think the trade-off is those planters may not fully be lit because we will be, the expanse of that is, doubling costs, and the planters in themselves with the integration of lights further doubles it yet again. So I think what we would propose is potentially an option for CB4 where we can maybe distribute the 17 planters of the column locations, and we can retain an integrated lighting feature in them. I'll further add, each of these is going to come standard with another feature of kind of a water tank in there, which will reduce the maintenance needs. So that's kind of a standard fixture on the planters. But at the scale of adding, 30 planters, we would not be able to accommodate, I think, all of the lighting. So that's potentially an option to CB4 is, do we want 12 locations lit, potentially with less planters, or do you want, the 6 locations with fully lit integrated planters? I think those are the 2 options that we're comfortable that we can absorb.
And Doug, I think from a design perspective, from an urban design perspective, I think I think it was floated as a potential for lighting integrated in the planters. But when we looked at the evolution of the lighting, so the Cobra heads are really on the south side of 30th Street there to intend to give, general lighting, just like any street lighting does in the city, to the sidewalk and the street. And then we had to obviously to solve the dire DOT requirement that we were able to reduce as we walked you through. But since we have overhead lights and the nature of the design is to uplight the trees on top of the walkway, so when at night you really see the landscape as this feature from the street level uplit, the minimal lighting ideas that were kind of floated don't really, they basically will be partially washed out from the lights above. And they don't really serve a big design purpose of highlighting anything important. So at the grade, we really, feel that the ground needs to be lit up, the walking surface one walks onto, so that it's lit up to the proper level, that it's safe and well lit. Through that downlight, the planters themselves will get lit up from both sides. So from the sidewalk on 30th Street looking north, you would see the spillage like any city street. The lower plantings would be lit up. And then the downlight underneath the structure would create a general lighting of planters and pathways. And so to us having, as you pointed out, consistent landscaping across all the columns that gives us a visual kind of perspective that shields the cars that are going to run on both sides, is much more urban design-wise important and effective than maybe adding some, I think there was some ideas about some rim lights at the bottom of the planters that really are not adding, and just from a maintenance and from a design perspective, we didn't see that is, of big value versus having more substantial tree clusters on every column that provide kind of a more enjoyable and safe comfort feeling as you walk down the sidewalk between the 2 driving vehicular lanes.
Thank you. I think
Yes.
it kind of answers my question. I think balancing act is what is required here. And I personally am not a great fan of uplighting the trees because they make them look like they're floating. And especially when they're at a particular height, it even makes it look very sort of eerie, so to speak. But the focus to light up the sidewalk is much more important. So I think combination of the 2, I will leave it to you. I'm not going to design it for you, but I think you probably would do a much better job if you try to balance the 2 much more, in an integrative manner. Thank you.
Okay. Janine, do we have anybody from the public who wants to speak?
I don't see any more hands up.
Okay. So I have 1 or 2 questions. So one is, when you were showing us the Dyer Bridge, I know it's not totally part of our discussion, but the Dyer Bridge could you get back to that slide? before that? Where you were showing people walking on it, here, right there. So you see the baluster there? I mean, we have had serious problem with the vessel. And I think you want to have here something which goes higher than that on the side.
Yeah, I think this is an older vignette.
Okay.
We have increased the height of the guardrail.
All right. So
Since then. So yeah,
that just
that's a good
caught my
point.
eye.
Yes, no, we had
my eye as we are going.
same discussions.
Right. And then could you confirm who is going to, I see that you have about 20 people in this project, like, I mean, 20 parties, it's so complicated.
Oh, yeah.
So who is going to maintain the lights, the under lights, under the High Line?
So there is two separate jurisdictions. There are DOT fixtures, which are the east-west portion, and the north-south portion under the Woodbridge.
Yeah, I'm asking about the east-west.
East-west would be DOT.
Oh, it is DOT? It's not?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not Port Authority.
Port Authority is on the north-south under the Woodbridge, correct, Kim?
I see.
That is correct, yeah. And Christine, I know last time there was a question too, can we do a non-DOT? Because maybe it's flexible. We actually looked at it with Tilliston, the lighting manufacturer. And you know, because we you know, they're not the prettiest, we agree, and they were very bright. So we first started looking at just, is there a prettier kind of designer fixture, but it was just impossible to get the even and light levels for Dyer without creating spotlights every 10 feet that then is basically blinding cars. Right. So we kind of went deep into it because, you know, we valued your suggestion of like, hey, somebody else can maintain it. But we ultimately, from a performance perspective, had to go back to kind of a standard DOT, and that's why they're standard. They kind of provide that evenness. But by reducing the intensity a lot, I think it's very much in the realm of what we see in cities and urban fabrics of a.
And so I understand this discussion about the planters that I think the planters you are showing are the one that we had mentioned in our letter and that we would prefer. And the mix between the balance, as Viren says, between lighting and the number, I think I understand this is part of a, you know, budget issue. And I think we should have further discussion about how to balance that. And people will be generally, I think we should have at least one planter on each column, you know, so there is a continuation. And then maybe we can talk about whether, you know, some are lit or not. And I think your point was very well taken about where do we put the emphasis as far as the lighting. And we should have a further discussion about that on you know, getting into the details of the design as you are moving forward. We'll be happy to discuss that.
Yeah, Christine, I think our team can go back and maybe frame a couple options that,
yes,
you know, maybe we'll give you an opportunity to, you know, if you value the 12 locations, which I think there is
right.
Design purpose and it achieves a lot of the elements that Kim says, we can maybe lay that out versus we can, you know, do whatever the full lighting program is within kind of our authorization and our capacity within the project. And we can kind of outline a couple of those.
If you had the 12, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot on that, but if you had the 12 location, yeah, we could trade off maybe the number of planters, right? So we don't have so many groups. So you have to make some proposal about mixes that make sense, right?
Yeah,
financially and design wise, and then we can go from there, I think.
Yep, I think that's fair.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you all think, but I think we've made a lot of progress. I'm saying you have made a lot of progress, and I think we are much, much closer in the direction. And you know, if we had unlimited budget, I think we would be very happy to add bells and whistles. but considering where we started and considering where we want to be, I think I view that as a really pretty good outcome. Dale, what do you think? Is everybody? You are on mute.
Sorry, I agree. I think the lighting, not having to be burdened by lighting both sides of the street has improved the lightscape. And it's nice to have more green, and it's nice to see some of this stuff in details. And I would say we, endorse this direction, and also, look forward to taking next steps to get into like the details of the planning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do we have Jeffrey has raised his hand. I didn't see that. Your hand is against the white wall.
Of the background, yeah. Thank you. And thank you everybody on the team for this presentation. I think it's a great improvement, and I really appreciate seeing the examples of context of those pictures snapped around the city. I think that was a very useful exercise for all of us. At least it was for me to see that on the screen tonight. And we work hard to make our neighborhood have human scale and be contextually and aesthetically pleasing. And I think the finishes that are going into this are getting us into a direction we want to be, especially for an area that has long been, a dumping ground for the city, for the port, and quite frankly, for the state. So thank you for responding to us. It's not perfect. It never usually is in these processes, but this is a really marked improvement. So thank you.
Yeah, it is.
So
Okay.
Yep. Well, thank you. We appreciate, the input and support of the board, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for listening to us and giving us the opportunity. This is really, really appreciated. Do we have a resolution? So I think my summary would be that we support the direction. We are excited about having more locations, and then within the budget, want to figure the best balance between lighting and numbers. And I would add to the group to our committee is that indeed, if we have power coming installed, which is expensive, right? Then you can add to it. So having the power going to the different location has a long-term value, because we could have marginal improvement later on. If we have no light at all, then they are not installing the lighting, and then it would be very expensive to add lighting in the future, bottom up. So that's a consideration that we want to put in the letter somewhere, saying that I think it's an added value for us to have an electrical infrastructure installed for the future. Do we have a motion?
So
I make a motion to approve this and move forward.
Okay, second. Is that Viren as a second?
Yeah.
All in favor? Please raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? And anybody opposed? No. Not eligible, present, not eligible? No one. Thank you. So Kim and Doug, thank you very, very much. We appreciate, and we look forward to talking to you to look at, some options. Thank you.
Great. We will follow up.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's exciting. That is a huge improvement, right? All right, so the second thing is a presentation vote by Adventures by Down, LLC, an intercity bus stop application at the northwest of corner of 24 and 11. And before they start, to give a little background here, this gentleman came to see us 1 year ago, and we approved their stop at 29, and we were pretty positive about this spot, the spot, and but it was on 29 and 12, right? And now you're asking for 24 and 11. So please tell us what happened last year, what caused the change, and what's the operation. You don't have to spend too much time because we liked your operation last time, so.
Yeah, one thank you for the time, and I want to kind of apologize for coming back here again. So one of the things that happened over the past year was that while we appreciate your approval and we're moving forward with that from a business challenge standpoint with the Delta variant and some operational challenges that we had within my own company, we didn't feel that we had the right staff to manage this properly. So it didn't make sense for us to go into an operation where that it wasn't going to be successful. So we kind of put a pause on that. So we went back to DOT to kind of say, hey, we want to move forward with it. They said that you need to reapply. So we did that, and we put in the same location, and DOT asked you to put in 5 alternative locations. So it was the same exact permit, same, everything was the same. And I honestly don't know why, but DOT's preference in what they gave us was the location on 24th and 11th next to the USPS garage. I wish I could answer why, but.
So Colleen, are you with us? Could you give us a little bit of background here of why the change of selection?
So hey everyone, it's Colleen from DOT. So I think what the gentleman just mentioned, I think there was a reduction in their services, if I'm not mistaken. And because of the pandemic, it was decided, or they had decided they prefer not to operate from that particular location. Do you have that letter, Christine? Because I think I elaborated on that.
Yeah, I have the letter.
Okay.
Where is it?
And I think it's 24th Street is the site.
No, it was 29.
Hold on.
It was 29 and 12. So is that going to be a big problem if we approve 29 and 12?
I mean, I don't see this as a problem. I mean, if it's okay with the Intercity company.
Yeah,
that's what they want.
So if that's what you want, then why did we give you?
They don't know. That's the whole question.
Yeah, so on the application, it asked for like 5 alternative locations, which we put, and the response back we got was that this was a preferred location.
So if you don't know that, Dale?
Real quick, can I just ask this question? As the operator, your preference is for the original location at 29th and 12th?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. So I don't know. I suggest that we approve it again at the same location, or ask DOT to explain to us why the change. And if everything is equal, we would all prefer the first one, right?
So it's Colleen. I'm a little bit confused because the information I got is that the operator, there was a reduction in the schedule, and the operator chose not to go to 29th and 12th. And we looked at a few spots, and then we decided on the location which I mentioned in the letter to you. So, I mean, if we, provided a few locations that we said is not feasible, or a location where we said we would prefer it, I'm sure bus stop management would have given an explanation on that.
Well, this is a little bit of a mystery, right?
It is.
It is. So if the operator likes 29, if we have already approved 29, my recommendation is that we're going to approve 29. I don't think we have an objection to to the other one, but it doesn't seem to be the right thing to do, right?
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
And as 2 separate applications before and after, you're saying that the schedule that we originally reviewed, the new schedule is slightly reduced compared to the original schedule?
That's my understanding, Dale.
Yeah, I was asking.
No, it should be the same.
Same schedule.
Same schedule.
So I don't get it. Right. I don't know.
Seems like, yeah, there's a little miscommunication.
I think there is a little crossing of the wires. That's really, oh, okay, we have multiple hands. Jesse.
I apologize. There's just a few of us were not here last year when this was
Yes.
approved.
Oh,
And
sorry.
even if I could just get 3 minutes, just so I know what I'm voting on and what this company is, what this schedule is that we're talking about, just so I have some sense before I vote. Thank you.
So, Adeline, did you have a little presentation? Yeah.
Sure.
The quickest one.
Yeah, the quickest. I'm not trying to slow this down at all. I really
No. This is a
the high
very good.
level is totally fine, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick look. Let me share my screen.
In the meantime, Viren, you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, the presentation started, so I'll wait. All right.
Right. Okay.
So it's Colleen. In the meantime, while he's pulling that up, I'm looking at the letter that we sent, and it said CB approved 12th Avenue at West 30th Street in front of 260 12th Avenue. However, a permit was never issued due to service disruption related to COVID. Since then, the bus company decreased its schedule, and therefore we can proceed with their preferred location, which is the northwest corner of 24th and 11th Avenue. I mean, I'm not going to make up this language, which is what bus stop management told me. So
Yeah.
I would have to confirm with them
Yeah.
on what's going on.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
yeah, Adnan, can you go through it very quickly, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of skip this other stuff just to give you some background on who we are. So we are a private motor coach, small women-owned minority company that was founded in 1999. We primarily do kind of 3 distinct lines of businesses. One is kind of transportation from DC to New York. The second one is charter work within kind of the East Coast, probably Canada down to Florida. And then we do a lot of work with the White House, TSA, FBI, DHS, ICE, a lot of kind of special government contracts that we have. And we do probably, and this is pre-pandemic, which now business is picking up the way it was, but over 100 trips into New York from a charter standpoint on an annual basis. We kind of pride ourselves on kind of 3 things. One is our fleet. So all of our equipment is 3 years or newer. From a, what does that impact to an end customer standpoint is the ride, the amenities, the emissions, where that it's governed by the latest EPA engines. Our drivers, we call chauffeurs, go through a certified training program, which is a full week long. They do annual recertification. They do quarterly revalidations that are done online through an online-based kind of platform that we have. Kind of talked a little bit about our fleet. This is kind of what sets us apart a little bit. It's quality over quantity. Is that everything has, the electric outlets, Wi-Fi, seatbelts, 3 years or newer. GPS tracking. All of our units are ADA equipped, specifically the ones that we want to operate going into New York. Also have bicycle racks that allow people that kind of want to take their bikes with them up and down the city. Safety, insurance, compliance. Because we are so heavily involved in so many government entities, we get audited almost on a monthly basis by various, whether it's DOD, TSS, TSX, every individual DHS or ICE or TSA does their own audits on a regular basis. We also have our own internal team that monitors our driver performance, where you're harsh braking, you're speeding, you're idling excessively. I get into a little bit more of the green certification that we have on this slide here, but we were the first motor coach company in the DC area to become green certified. It is a program that is run by the University of Vermont. All of our operators are required to go through a idle-free and eco-drive certification before they can drive. All the cleaning material that we use within our office, within cleaning the buses, is all green friendly. We do a lot of work with DOT down in Washington, DC with Earth Day and things for the environment to help understand why motor coaches are emit the least amount of passenger miles from a fuel emission standpoint. Some other things that we do from a corporate recycling policy, as well as our maintenance department, everything that we can, whether it's heating the maintenance facility with used oil or scrapping the metal or batteries and recycling them, or even rubber, which is now it's kind of beneficial to us from a cost standpoint, where that we can recycle that. So that's kind of green certification that we have. Our background is, we want diversity from all aspects, right? Whether it's race, religion, or age. So we kind of pride ourselves on having a very diverse company where that people bring different ideas and values, and we incorporate that into our everyday operations. Just a kind of a high level overview of where we are and kind of all of those different aspects. Our maintenance program is also one of the better ones that we have, where that we have integration with our GPS system as well as our maintenance system and our dispatch system, where that if we have virtual technician software from 2 different engine providers that give us alerts, and all of these systems, the key is that they're all integrated. So that way, if there is some type of engine alert or any type of proactive warning, we get notified, it goes into our maintenance system and automatically takes that bus down. We have stringent 5,000-mile checks, or every week we also do a check. So there's daily pre and post trips the drivers do. Again, this is all integrated within one kind of our maintenance system, where it gets fed all these different APIs and data inputs from various sources. We have our maintenance team. The kind of oldest guy here has been with us. He's been in the industry for 35 years. Our maintenance team averages about 15 years of experience. Like I said, I mentioned the vendor software diagnostics, where getting that data directly from the engine through the ECM module is very important to us to make sure that we limit breakdowns and don't have any issues. All of our coaches go back to the vendors on a regular basis, at least annually. It's kind of like taking your car to the dealership versus your trusty, maybe your mechanic that you've been going to for a couple of years. They're going to charge you more, but it's just that second set of eyes to make sure that you have a safe operating vehicle. Affiliations.
Okay.
We are part of, God knows, every single affiliation possible from.
You want to move on a little bit?
Yeah, so the routes, one of the reasons why I want to get to the routes is the access to the tunnel.
Yes.
Minimal time that we spend on the surface streets. We follow the official truck and bus routes. There's multiple routes to the tunnel, something's closed. From a loading, unloading standpoint, we don't plan on selling any tickets there. Initially, we were looking at 15 to 20, but I think we can probably even get down to 10 to 15 minutes of queuing, electronic check-ins. We're going to have, as things pick up, we might have attendants to make sure that we kind of get in and out as quickly as possible. And then we kind of put that way that we were on hold due to the initial COVID impact and Delta variant. And now that hopefully we're out of this cycle of variants, that we can kind of get back to normal. The schedule that we had was kind of 3 days per trip, 3 days per week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Going from DC to Columbia to White Marsh, 1 p.m. arrival from DC and a 2 p.m. departure from that location.
Okay.
Sorry, I spoke really fast. I wanted to kind of give a quick overview.
We appreciate that. Let me take some questions. Viren.
No, my question is just going back to the initial proposals. If your schedule hasn't changed, and if the location is what you prefer, the one that we approved, is that your position now? Can you confirm them now?
Yeah, the schedule hasn't changed. It's still 3 days a week initially. The preferred location is still the same. I'll circle back with we have a marketing team that helps us kind of do some analysis to make sure that somebody didn't change anything down the line. But my direction was for it to be the exact same.
All right. So Jesse. Oh, where are you? Oh, here you are. You are on mute.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry. Mr. Khan, sorry, can you just go into a little bit more detail about your contracts with ICE?
Sure. So we have, it's pretty much the same with all the government agencies we mentioned, in that we do kind of transportation from various metro areas to their on-site campuses, as well as around the campus. So it's a lot of employees, shuttles that will take them from the metro locations to, let's say, the DHS and ICE kind of built a new headquarters down in St. Elizabeth. So it goes from L'Enfant or other Anacostia Metro within the DC area.
So just to clarify, there will be no detainees being transported.
No.
In and out of
federal
Chelsea and Hell's
employees.
Kitchen. I just needed that clarification. Thank you very much. That's fine. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Tina.
Yeah, just quickly, I had seen in your presentation, I think it was, that you pick up people, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And you were speaking fast. I was just curious, what do you do to ensure no idling is my first question. And I'm sorry if you already said that, but and my second question has to do with, on your application, it says operation by drivers in a dangerous or careless manner is 43%. What does that mean? I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar.
So let me answer the first question. We don't allow our coaches to idle more than 5 minutes. If they idle more than 5 minutes, there is a software configuration on the buses that shuts it down. So the only way they can do it is to restart it. The rule typically is 3 minutes, but if people are loading and unloading, sometimes it takes a bit longer. So we set our buses at 5 minutes, so they can't. Unless they turn it back on, turn it back off, but it automatically shuts off. In addition, we monitor that on a daily basis. So we have a dashboard that monitors idling, harsh braking, and speeding, and we rate each driver, and then we incentivize the drivers, right? Whoever idles the least, they get, $100 a month. If everybody meets a threshold, then the entire team gets a bonus. The idling, we put that effect 3 years ago, and it significantly decreased it so that we idle less than 10%. Even in the winter, summer, taking all that into consideration, less than 10% over time. And a lot of that is unloading and loading because people,
let me answer the 43%. There is an application from the Federal Highway of Bus Association, which I will share with you. And they have measurement for every bus company of their drivers and their performance and their safety. And one of them is, and so they measure in which percentile they are. So it's not like percent, but it's a percentile. And in certain percentile are good and certain percentile are bad. And this one happens to be good. It's a little bit counterintuitive. So I will send you the website. And every time that's why we're asking it, because they take it from the website and they tell us we don't have, instead of us going to that.
Thanks.
Okay, Rob.
Hey, everyone. Just for clarification, this is a really unique intersection because if you're traveling north, you can't make a right-hand turn onto 24th. You have to make a left. Are you actually on 24th Street, but towards the corner, or are you actually on 11th Avenue?
No, the location which was proposed is really on 24.
Okay.
Proposed
okay.
by,
I just want
by DOT.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Well, we're hoping
I think I have a concern with the proposed location by DOT is that it is in an MTA bus stop, and it's something that we have tried to stay away from because indeed, if you have, one or two buses and they are waiting for their passengers, and the MTA bus comes, it's not, it just kind of slows down the bus. So we are always very careful at not overlapping those two functions so that the intercity activity does not negatively impact the MTA. So that's another reason I would, first they would like the other stop. Second, this one is in an MTA bus stop. I don't think it's a good idea. And third, I think even the days in the application are not the same that they gave us, that Adnan gave us in his in filling out our form. So I think there is definitely some crossing of wires there going on. So I'd like to propose that I personally do we have a motion to support the stop that we approved before? Yes.
I'd like to make that motion.
Everybody likes that. Is anybody in the public, Janine, want to speak about that?
No, there's no hands.
Okay. So, so we have a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So we'll approve, and we'll send a letter approving your former and highlighting the disconnect with the letter from DOT, and also highlighting that we don't want the DOT to be in the MTA stop. That's not a good idea. There are two buses stopping there, and one is an SBS, and you don't want to slow down those buses. Okay, so thank you, Edmund.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time again.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to close that. What's the next thing?
The survey.
The survey, how exciting. So thank you for filling the survey. That was complicated. That was difficult and intensive. And Blake has been kind enough to summarize it in a great document. So I'm going to try to share my screen. And you have you saw the document, right? In share. And the document is the curb usage. And we want to go up. So you remember that the smaller number means that is the top selection, right? So on the residential street, I mean, the top 10 is sidewalk, bike lane, pedestrian refuge, access ride, street seats, trash, neighborhood loading zone, bike share, bike parking, bus stop is at the bottom of that, bus lane is at the bottom of that. We have e-charging station, and open restaurant is in, and after that we have all the parking, which are at the bottom of the discussion. And then on the commercial arterial, we have bus, trash, bus lane, bike lane, pedestrian refuge, bike lane, sidewalk extension, e-charging station for bike, bike parking, commercial loading, access to ride, commercial parking, open restaurants. And then the rest, I'm going to say the rest of it. So that's what we found between us. And the question I have for you is what do we want to do next? And how do we want to do it? I think we had discussed sharing it with the board members and the public in general, and get them to answer the same questions, or maybe change the question a little bit so it's easier to answer, and merge a lot of the parking issues, car parking into one question maybe, and some of the bus issues, merge them into one question. So it's less difficult to prioritize.
I think it would be easier for respondents to answer if there were categories of answers instead of just singular units. They were these are the vehicle parking possibilities along a side street, and then you can list them. So people could actually vote for them, or generally vote for car parking and then have a box to do specify specific kinds of parking, so that we don't have so many categories to answer.
Yeah. What other, that's a very good suggestion. Oh, here I have Viren.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo what Dale was saying. I think maybe we can have 4 or 5 big buckets. And within the buckets, say, for example, parking is one bucket, and then you have multiple sort of, range for parking types.
Right.
And similarly about waste management.
Right.
Not simply call it recycling, but waste management. And within that, we have 3 or 4 categories. So I think 4 or 5 big ticket items should be the sort of,
and then you would ask a question of giving a priority to the categories, and then inside the categories.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Then you can have much more fine-grained data. At the same time, overall what is the priority as well.
Right.
Achieve both goals.
Right. Brett.
Yeah, I mean, given the number of categories, I mean, I think some of the nuances I think might be important. It might be easier. It might be clearer for people to just vote just on it, is most important, least important for each one individually. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, and then you get an average instead of ranking. I think it's hard for people to keep track of. So
Okay.
it's a different approach, but I think it's I think doing a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 is probably easier for people to fill out, and then we can
1 to 5. What is the scale applies to? Because we gave a scale of 1 to 5. So just clarify what you're saying.
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's fine. It's probably okay. I mean, I think the biggest thing that would be very interesting is if we do have this more of a broad community survey, because I think it's not just what is a community like, but I think it might also give us a sense of how in line are we with our community as a committee, since we talk to each other a lot, and I think sometimes we are very like-minded. So it would be good for us to know, are we really representing what the community at large thinks, like we all want to think we do, or is there some other priority? So
we should have a letter. We should have an open letter, an open question also. What other priorities should be there, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I think if part of the survey response, we can get a little bit about someone's geographic location, because there might be
like a zip code, right?
Right, because my hunch is people who live, say, in Chelsea versus Hudson Yards versus Hell's Kitchen, there's going to be some differences in opinion as well.
Okay.
Car ownership might be a little bit different, et cetera. So,
okay, David, thank you.
Yes, first of all, I think Blake, thank you, Blake and Christine, for doing this. I like Viren's idea and Dale's idea, but maybe in order to finesse it, fine tune it might have already been brought, but maybe we can bring it to Street Life Committee and also discuss it with they're coming up with the sanitation ad hoc group. So maybe we can discuss with them also, so they can help us with this, once we have it categorized, because I definitely think waste management is extremely important when it comes to the curb, and also to put it in the street. Also, with the loading zones too. I mean, we can finesse this to where we can get more loading zones and get rid of more car storage.
Okay.
But I think this was great, though.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, yes. Brett again, but Jeffrey first, because Brett, you already. Oh, you are. It's an old.
I just didn't lower my hand. Sorry.
Jeffrey.
First of all, this is tremendous. Thank you to the committee for doing this. I think one of the reasons it was extremely useful, even though it was overwhelming, is because it makes you really see what is being fought for at the curb. And in reality, we need about 6 lanes of curb to properly organize the street. These demands are not, the uses are not insignificant when we think about the importance of the organizational structure of the streetscape, the management, or frankly, the lack thereof management that we've experienced as New Yorkers and the city just doesn't do for a long time. So I appreciate the call to sort of simplify, but I have to say the challenge is in seeing the volume of competing need at the same time, because this is going to be an ongoing discussion, especially as the streets master plan, gets worked out, and how we can use something like this to help inform that. And I also think, once again, Board 4 leading the way, this is something that we should be giving to our neighbors, not just in Manhattan, but I have friends in downtown Brooklyn going through similar exercises with this as well. So, kudos, but it'd be nice to simplify, but it's not simple at the same time.
That's a good point.
I want to stress the point that it was like, I want organizational simplicity, not so much like, I think Jeffrey's absolutely right. The impact of this survey is like, this is a lot of uses that we have to juggle, but it would be like helpful for people not to like look at this super long list of options and say, I don't even know where to start. to like
Yes.
put them in blocks, to put them in organizational blocks, but still give people the option one way or another of making specific selection.
The only point I would make about that is that I was definitely thinking along the same lines, but it's interesting to see that if you were talking about, you know, the different ranking, like bike lane and street seats and pedestrian, so there is a whole mix of things, right? Access to ride is mixed up with bike lane, is mixed up with everything. So when we start to make categories, the risk is, I mean, I'm concerned that the risk is going to be, okay, I'm going to put the pedestrian first, right? But, you know, in the middle of the pedestrian stuff, I would have liked to put some bike lane, right? So how do we resolve that equation?
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? It's like on the pedestrian group, I may not want to do everything, and everything is not number one. It's something else comes in between. So I think this is a tension we have to resolve, in a sense, on how to do that.
So you're almost leaning towards just like a purely alphabetical list that mixes everything up intentionally so that people really have to comb
No, I
through.
mean, before we talk, my thought was to take some things which obviously are too many, right? And merge them into one thing. I mean, deliveries, I mean, we can put deliveries in one line, right? We don't have to separate in 4 lines. And maybe cut off for everything which was at the bottom, right? Parking for doctors and teachers, well, remove that, it's parking, right? So you can make it simpler, maybe without losing the granularity of the choices. But I'm not sold on that. It was my first idea. I'm not sold on that. I'm just concerned that, you know, people are going to have to say, well, I'm a cyclist, therefore bicycle stuff is first, right? And maybe that's not. I mean, you know, you say, well, I want to have street seats first. So Tina.
2 comments. First of all, I think merging or clumping would have really helped me.
Right.
But more importantly, and don't shoot me for asking this question, I would have felt better if I didn't have to do just 1 through 5, because I did want to express that there was certain things that I felt bad because I wanted to add. Why are we limiting it to a 1 through 5 if there's, let's say, 8 options versus saying 1 through 8?
No, 1 to 5 was not a ranking. 1 to 5 was a rating.
Right, what I mean.
And the rating means that this thing is a 1 and this thing is a 5.
Right. What I'm saying is, why can't, in other words, if there are 8 options, like biking, whatever, there are 8 different, out of this list, we were rating what was first, what was.
No, we were saying, this thing is very important to me, and this thing is if you said 5, it meant it's not important to me. It's the lowest importance to me. But what it allows you to do is to say that 5 or 6 or 7 things are the lowest importance.
Yes.
So if you had to do the ranking, it would have been very difficult, because you would have had to have one thing is 1, and the second thing is 2, and the third thing is 3, and you would have had no flexibility of saying multiple things are good. So it's a technique of polling, which gives you more flexibility in doing it this way. If you do pure ranking, it's really hard.
But if there are, let's say, 8 options, we couldn't do 1 through 8. In other words, if there are many, many options to choose from, why can't?
It's harder.
Okay.
Tina, maybe it's confusing. Tina, did you rank them? We ranked them every single one of these options 1 through 5. Did you do that, or did you only rank?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I also think like whatever bias is implicit in the system is going to get washed away as we open it to wider and wider populations.
Mm. So it was just a decision of what is easier to do. You know, I thought if we were doing a pure ranking, it would have been really hard, especially when we had so much. That was where here you could say, oh, this is a 2, this is a 3, this is fine, you know, this is a little soft. Viren.
Yeah, just to clarify my comment, I didn't mean to simplify it. What I meant was it's actually a design problem, right? I mean, people get paid top money designing surveys. So what I was suggesting was not to lose the granularity of it, but make this 4 or 5 buckets which contain the granularity within those. So idea was not to sort of lose detail, but how to categorize them in such a manner that we, at the end of the day.
No, Viren, I understand. What I don't understand is, help me with that, is that if you put a bucket, right? And the bucket is called deliveries. And inside, I'm just making it up, right? Deliveries, and inside you have 3 or 4 or 5 type of, or buses. We have the MTA buses, we have the intercity buses, and we have the, let's say, hop-on, off-on buses, right? So if I put in there MTA, up-on, off, I'm going to rate, oh, you say you're rating that, but you don't, I got it. I finally got it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're actually answering,
I got it.
your own question, actually.
You just rate it and it doesn't live into that, right?
If you have the deliveries, if you have deliveries, then you have all types.
I got it.
Same thing with the bus. I think it becomes easier.
No, I got it. I totally got it. That's it.
It's an organizational.
Right.
Exactly.
David.
You're not losing you're not losing the granularity at all. We're retaining it.
I got it.
Thank you.
Forgive me for going into the weeds. One of the questions you brought up, and I was not taken aback, but you know, I kind of chuckled because when you put teachers and doctors in the same thing, the doctors parking, I think, is part of state law where they're allowed to park almost anywhere. And that goes back to the times when doctors made house calls at one point. They haven't in the last 50, 40 years, but it's still in the law. We would like doctors to start making house calls again, but that's a whole nother can.
Right.
So a doctor's parking is always been allowed because of that.
No, it's not. There are special placard allowing them to park.
Yeah, they have empty plates. That's what I'm saying, right? That allow them to park.
Yeah, but if we all say we don't want doctors parking, that's the way it is. We're just going to say.
Actually, we would like. I mean, I personally, maybe we're on a different page here. I would like to get doctors to start making house calls again. And in this one rare exception,
David, we're going to put that in the survey. Do you want doctors calls?
No, I'm just saying. I know this is in the weeds, but I mean, all right.
Okay, so what I'm hearing. Oh, and one more thing. You know, there is one thing we didn't put in the list, which was like green and bioswale. And I think we should add that question, where you would replace parking spot with a bioswales, because we didn't include that. And I think that's probably a mistake.
I think in the initial discussion, we talked about the fact that most of those are on the curb rather than in the street bed. But you're saying we could start to advocate for them in the street bed.
I'm saying that, or install trees or install greenery, you know. Let's take over when you do a neck down. At the beginning, DOT was doing neck down, and they were replacing in the neck down. They were putting greenery, and so you know.
Yeah.
Viren, you still have your hand up.
No. I just going to echo what you just said. I think I totally agree with you. That we should actually consider sort of expanding where the bioswales can go. So not fixed to geography of the sidewalk alone. But what I was going to suggest that maybe there might be things that we haven't thought about. So maybe we should have one more bullet item which says other.
Oh, yeah. I said that. Absolutely. I said that earlier. We should do that. Okay, so I'll take a shot, send it to Blake. Right, Blake, you're going to be my because we need to know that what we are doing, we can, you know, extract the data, right? That it is easy to extract the data. This one was not that easy, but we want to make sure it works. And then we'll start to send it to everybody, and we'll make a round with you again, with everybody again. You can look at it again. You don't have to answer it. You just have to look at it, and then we'll send it to everybody and start to collect data.
Excuse me, Christine. So you'll be able to incorporate these results into the wider results, even with changes?
No, that's a good, no. We need to, I don't think so.
We're going
I think once we have reviewed it, which was the draft, right?
Yeah.
Then we'll send it to everybody, and you'll have to take it again.
Right.
Right.
You're basically asking the committee to take it again. So Tina, if you liked it the first time.
I'm so looking forward to this. Let me tell you, it was hard.
Just consider it like a practice run, the first one.
It was hard. I thought it was hard. I was reading the thing and I said, oh my God, there's no way I can fill out this thing. This is crazy.
But it was, I mean, I think it was really instructive for modeling how to collect this data and how to get people, how to get respondents thinking about it. So
yes.
Yeah, because we do want to be part of the larger data set. We don't want to be excluded from the larger data set.
No.
And also, was the idea that you articulated at one point that we're going to release it to the committee first and then to the wider public?
Well, what I wanted is I want to include the changes and then pass it on to you guys so you can read it. Can read the survey.
You're not asking us to retake the survey. You're just asking us to look at.
No, we actually are.
No, well, there are two steps. The first step is just read it. And if it's not feasible, we'll just send it out, and then you'll have to take it back, take it again.
But the idea is to take it to the community, the 50 members of the community board,
Everybody.
And then wide. Just
to everybody.
Okay, so the next phase is wide.
And then we'll have some questions like, are you a member of a community board? Which one? And are you, what's your zip code, right? And then we'll do like we did last time, say, give us your email if you want to see the results. So that gives us, we capture some emails.
Got it, okay.
Right? Oh, Jesse.
No, really, sorry. Who's everybody again?
Everybody's everybody.
How are we sent? Like how are we reaching everybody?
We send to community board mailing lists. We send it to all the other advocate organizations. We send it to all the elected official, and they send it to their list. So we do everything we can.
It would also be on the CB4 website.
Yes. So it would be and then when we send it to you, or everybody will say, hey, please send it to your friends.
That's what I mean. So is it the kind of thing we post on our social media?
Yeah. And we'll send it social media, send it to your friends, send it to your building, send it to whoever you can.
But we will be able to see a data set specific to the district if we wanted to.
With the zip code, we kind of, right? Because if we ask people, are you part of CB4? 90% of the people don't know they are part of CB4. So if you ask them their zip code, that's an easier catch, The last survey we made, Jesse, we had 1,000 respondents. So that was pretty good.
That's pretty good. Okay.
That was pretty good, right? And then, I'll send it on, we'll send it to the Blog Association. We put it on Twitter. You just put it on Facebook. You just go crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody's just as many people as we can get.
Right, exactly. Okay, all right. So that was a good discussion. And now the last one is framework for open restaurants. Am I still sharing here?
That's the second to last one on the agenda.
Yeah, there is something else after that. So I attended the testimony for the city for city council hearings on open restaurants. This went on for 8 hours. I didn't stay 8 hours. This was crazy. And you know what I came out of that is that a lot of the council members are not comfortable with what is being proposed by DOT and by the city. And there are a lot of questions which are just like ours. And, you know, the next step is the elected officials are going to negotiate with the city on what that solution is going to be. So my thought was to write down what we have already discussed. We have already sent 4 or 5 letters on that. So we group all of that in a simple document. And essentially, I consulted with BLP and, you know, essentially write a letter and say, this is what we think the program should be. And then extract on the front of the letter something which is more about the pedestrians and the bike lanes and, you know, the transportation. So that's the idea. And we've already, again, this is really essentially those letters that we have written before. I can tell you the only thing which was not written about before is that we are asking here the restaurant to accommodate some portion of the cafe to be for free. Because if they consume all the space that can be used for seating, there will not be any free seating out there anymore. Like the city won't be able to install a bench if there is a sidewalk cafe and a restaurant on the other side, right? So I'm just floating that thought as, hey, if you are taking all the space, it would be nice to have some free space so the little old ladies like me can go and sit anywhere and not have to pay. I mean, that's the only thing that has never been discussed before. Everything else has been included into our resolution before, so there is nothing new there. Yes, David.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. Did we include also that we don't want the LPG, which is the propanes, in those? Because those are like little bombs. The LPG, the propane tanks are like little bombs. So we want to make sure that it's explicit that we don't want, they use those for the heating, and those things are really, really dangerous. You know, okay. Aside from also maybe we have also containerization. I think we put this in, but containerization of their trash so rodents can't get in and can't make a mess. You know, were you on the call with the big Times Square bid was on? They showed us these trash receptacles. I was on one of the calls. I can't remember who it was. I've been on so many Zooms, but the Times Square bid and even the 34th have where you can't get into the, you know, the animals can't get into the trash and it's containerized.
Here I have roadway, leave 6 foot to store trash in the container on the roadway. So that's already there.
Okay, that's good. As long as
we'll do the propane, okay?
So we're good then. All right, thank you again. I know you do such great work.
Blake, right.
Thanks, Christine. I appreciate you drafting this. You know, I think to just echo David's point, at ACES, we had heard about the rats living under, you know, some of the cafe structures, and also a problem with, and I'm not sure if it goes in this letter or is a separate topic, but just around inspection of the structures. Since DOT is responsible for inspecting, but they're not really trained on how to inspect for a situation that might be prone to rodents. You know, so it's either, I think, providing training to DOT inspectors or providing more resourcing to the Department of Health inspectors who are trained on rats, but do not currently have any oversight over the these outdoor structures.
Right, that came up during the hearings, by the way. And the issue of under the platform, there are not going to be any platforms anymore.
Right. Yeah, so that, you know, should be fine. I think unless barricades, you know, have any room in the. And the other, you know, I guess point was on the seating. I just worry about the operational issues around that where, I think restaurant staff would be responsible for kind of managing seating by people who are not necessarily patronizing the restaurant. And, I think that would just create a challenge where we're not necessarily taking away seating. I think maybe a restriction could be that the structures couldn't, or the spaces couldn't be where city seating is already present. But
what about future?
But wouldn't the cafes be movable such that if there was plans to build seating, the cafe could move? But so I disagree.
No, I get your point. I mean, I think it's a good point. It's a really good point. I don't know what is the solution, but at the same time, you want to message that. I mean, it's once you have all these restaurants, you are going to have less opportunity to put seats for people.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's part of the movability where, if the city is looking to build seating, the restaurant would have to cede that space, but.
Okay, all right, that's, I'll take it, that's good.
I was going to suggest with there's some sort of covenant in the code saying like, the city has, priority.
I put that at the end, this is at the end, right? It is at the end where it says the city has the right to move everything for safety and can request a temporary removal and then request permanently removal for transportation and sanitation requirement. And we could add sitting there. I mean, just.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Who's next? Viren.
Yeah, I'm just, this might go on fall under the sort of rags whenever the city comes up with those. But the question about location of the outdoor sitting areas. So, for example, if you have a restaurant at the corner, and when they place the seating at the corner, it becomes really a traffic hazard.
Well, I did put that here. They are supposed to be so many feet from I said 10 feet from the pedestrian crossing.
Perfect. So that's a good thing.
Right, and it's the same thing as we said in the sidewalk. It's the same thing. Leave. I didn't put here. We need to put something from the corners.
Yes, at least 5 feet, not more.
All right, Tina. Sorry, Viren.
Sorry, no, good. The second thing that I wanted to say is, again, this might be covered or not covered. One of the problems is that the way this sitting areas are placed on the in the parking lane. As you know, Christine, the roadway is actually designed for the sort of along the curb becomes a gutter when it rains. So more often than not, this actually does kind of block and create puddles on both ends.
Yeah, but they are not going to have that anymore.
They're not going to allow that. Okay, good.
No, no platform anymore. No platform, no enclosures.
No enclosures. So the roadbed
it's really going to be like a cafe.
Good. So the roadbed is going to remain open. Water is going to flow there. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Very, very last thing, and this might be sort of pushing it, but in terms of beyond the restaurant owners occupying the parking lane, was there any conversation about opening up the parking lane for other food vendors?
No, we had written a letter early on, and we said, you need to include the food vendors in the option, and that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important because we basically are kind of allowing commercial interests to benefit from it, but then we need to make this more equitable.
I know.
Food vendors and the fruit vendors both really need to be somehow encouraged to be in this space.
Right.
And it's also good for us from a pedestrian point of view because then
I agree.
On the sidewalks.
We put it in 2 years. It was 1 year or 2 years ago now. I don't know when.
I think we might. Yeah. No. What I'm saying is it also sort of alleviates the pressure from.
Well, we'll make a note. We'll make a note in the letter. Okay. Yeah. Tina.
I have 3 quick questions. Even though there's no platform, should we specify the area has to be ADA compliant? I know.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a given, but we could.
It is kind of a given,
Right.
but I just feel really bad when it's
Yes.
not available. Okay, my second question has to do with in terms of enforcement, if let's say the license is revoked, should we specify who has to take away the
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. I think we were talking about bonding, which is essentially take an insurance so that people remove that stuff.
Yes, because that's been a problem. And then my third quick question is, I love the fact where you're under fees, it says it should be, the annual consent fee should be proportional to real estate value, because then it's equitable to everyone. But I'm confused as to why the first one exists. Is that two different?
The first one is like a processing fee.
Okay, got it.
So the first one is an administration processing fee.
Okay, so the second one would be a higher fee and make it more equitable.
Yeah.
For all of it. Perfect. Thank you.
Brett. Oh, Brett is frozen. Okay. Brett? No, he's not connected anymore.
Christine, while we're waiting for Brad, just want to echo Tina's point. What Tina meant, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you meant accessibility from the sidewalk side, which means might have to be a little platform or a ramp.
Yes.
Got it.
Right. I didn't put it in because everybody's talking about it, and it's a federal requirement, so they are definitely going to do it. That these are not. Okay, well.
So one last question, Christine. I'm sorry for butting in. One quick question: are they required to have some sort of insurance?
Say that again.
Are the restaurants required to carry some sort of insurance?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah. That must be in the application. I mean, there's no question they do. So yeah, Pete has a question.
Yes, I don't see anything about lighting, neon lights, anything listed in regards to that?
You mean what is the question though? What would you want? What would you want to be the tip?
Not to have it. So, some of the lighting might be really out of focus, or it can
be blinding.
It can really be blinding, and it can impose on the tenants and pedestrians, and types of advertising that's on those sheds.
Oh, that's very good. No advertising, you're saying?
Yes. No advertising. How about queuing as well? Where are they going to queue if there's a entrance to a building, a residential nearby, next to? Let's assume that the storefront or the restaurant is next to an apartment building and there's an entrance. Sometimes the queuing.
That's going to be the same as it is today, right?
I've seen it where it's out of control at times.
But it's a queuing for what? It's queuing.
Patrons.
But to go in where?
In the restaurant. Or in the sheds as well. Sometimes it's there's a line of people waiting to enter the restaurant.
That's the way it is today. So the open restaurant doesn't change anything about that.
It does in a way, because the queuing might have taken place exclusively indoors before.
I mentioned that in a clause which says that the picking up of drink to go has to be done inside. So that's one queue that would go away. But okay, I'll put it in this queuing inside.
The other one is some restaurants have a habit of putting their sandwich boards down the stream.
It's not located right in front of the premise. It's located maybe a half a block away. I've seen it on the corner of a street. So I'm not sure.
That's going to be illegal. So there's, this is business as usual as far as enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? David, Jesse, or no, David?
Just really quickly, I apologize. I think at some point someone's gonna have to do a study or reevaluation, and it might be too much put in this letter because it's very difficult, of the bike lanes that go through some of these restaurants. I, as a cyclist, go very slow. I don't want to hit a server or a patron, but not all cyclists are alike. And I think at some point they're going to have to reconfigure certain things or do certain things.
I agree with you, David, but I think it's a different discussion.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a different discussion, but it's an act. I wanted to put an asterisk to it. In the future, we have to discuss that.
Fine. Okay, Jesse.
To clarify, with no obstructions in the road, or no permanent structure, no structures in the road, so that means there's not going to be any sort of barrier signal for like it's just tables in the street, and there's nothing to signal to drivers, hey, there's a table in the street.
Oh no! There is going to be like those, construction barricade. Okay. But they are not going to go any higher than, 30-inch or 36-inch, right? Okay. And they are not going to be enclosure above it.
Yeah. So that's included elsewhere already. That's just a given already. That's
right. That they have already said they would do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Rob.
I've got 2 points, and I'm echoing what was just said prior. There are places that I've seen that you have a residential apartment building, and then to the right of it, you got a shed. To the left of it, you got shed. And then when they break down, they wind up storing stuff. It's a fire hazard. There needs to be an easement of greater than 2.5 or 3 feet for the fire department to get into that residential building. Then the other one, like Westville, on, I think it's 18th or something like that. At any rate, the one off 8th Avenue, they turn around and they not only have their spot, they went to the building next door, and because it's all residential, they somehow rented the entire apartment building, not even giving an easement for their front door for the fire department to get in. If you live in the building, you have to go all the way around to the building next to you to get around to the street for the shed.
So Rob, that's a good point. The last one is like, my understanding is that they are not going to allow people to go beyond the frontage of their restaurant.
Okay, I mean, if they can get hopefully this will be definitely in writing, but I've seen different establishments go to the building adjacent to them, and they have more than what they should.
I heard you. What I'm saying is that that's not going to happen anymore.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Brett? Oh, Brett is gone again.
Yeah, sorry, and hopefully I didn't miss anything because I lost my connection for a few minutes. But I would like to see the seating areas really just in front of the front door area of the restaurants.
That's what it's going to be.
Okay, so they can't wrap around the corner if they happen to be a corner location?
Oh, no. That we need to clarify.
Okay, because where I see that, I mean, we've got a few around here, some across the street on 8th Avenue, not quite in our district, that are doing that. But the issue is you have like wait staff running around the building and taking, adding to more of the sidewalk activity. The other thing is where you're showing leaves 8 or 12 feet of sidewalk. I would almost want to push more for 12 at least, especially on the avenues where there's more pedestrian activity, because
well, they are if you go see the master plan, of the DOT, they have classified the different avenues.
Right.
And they have classified them into, those which are really busy, etc. And so those which are really in those categories are going to get a 12-foot.
Okay.
Because you could have an avenue which is not very, like, let's say Upper West Side, West End Avenue. I mean, it's an avenue, but the occupancy of the number of pedestrian is limited.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think just from in our area, we like 8 feet when it's a newsstand, but add the waiter staff for people waiting outside the restaurant to get a seat.
Yes.
It's the other thing, and this is just I don't know how it finds in here. It's just more of a big picture thing, but I mean, before COVID, we were on board with the idea of people of having businesses with seating outside in those curbs, but we insisted that it couldn't be dedicated for the business. It had to be a way to get public open seating. And so during COVID, we understood this is important for the restaurants to stay open. Post-COVID, this is additional seating capacity that they would not have had before. The fact that they get seating outside and get a curb space is because it's a restaurant and not a grocery store or a clothing store. So I mean, I think really looking long term, I'd be much more comfortable with this if this became more in that direction of this is just open seating. You can get your food and bring it outside to eat, just like we were allowing pre-COVID. Otherwise, why are we making an allowance for a restaurant to have an extra seat and add to their business, as opposed to a clothing store putting an extra row of retail outside of their store? So that's it's an amenity to have more public seating outside for anybody to sit and eat lunch. We don't have a lot of space like that in general. That's a real public need.
So you have to talk with Blake and you guys resolve it, because Blake was saying something slightly different. What he's saying is that it's difficult to administer. And
to make it just restaurant only.
Yeah, and even in the restaurant. So yeah, I think it's good, because if you for the city, if you have a restaurant, you're going to generate good money, good revenue. But I think, as you said, a supermarket could, in front of their supermarket, do an open seating.
Right, which we were allowing, with
right.
permits.
So
before.
we want to say that we want that to continue. Let's say, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I mean, I think having, returning it to something like that takes away part of the issue of wait staff going back and forth. Yes. There's some waiters where they basically take their tray, put it on a stand on the sidewalk, and they bring food into the dining booths. And that's, that is causing some issues. So, and I think if we, return this back to it's just open seating if you want to have it, but it's not your restaurant's designated seating, would also help with the issue that David was getting to, which I agree with 100%, that it's a little anxiety provoking to be bicycling between the sidewalk and these open eating areas, because you never know when someone's going to get up and walk into the bike lane. So that's just something more to think about. And
yeah. Rob, is that a new hand or an old hand?
It's an old hand.
Okay. All right. There's no way I can summarize everything we said. But hopefully we can do a motion to incorporate all those comments, and we'll circulate the letter so you can all see whether we missed anything. Can I have a motion for that?
I'm sorry, Christine. There's someone in the public, Diana.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm bringing him over.
Hello? Diana, right?
Okay. I'm trying to
You're good. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, Brett had just brought this up slightly, but a question I've been wanting to bring up to the community boards and so forth. I think something that should be included is if an establishment happens to be located on a corner, then I feel they should either be the allowance should be that they should either have the sidewalk or the avenue or the side street, not both, not all three. And I think that perhaps, maybe some kind of like mathematical equation needs to come up, to be devised. For instance, if you can seat 100 people in your establishment, let's say 10% of that, then you can have seating for 10 outside. That would be like 5 tables, or some kind of number. It's just been taken to an extreme here, where we have there were several, like, I don't know if I should mention names or not, but anyway, the restaurants on like 7th Avenue and 17th Street, they have I'll just give you this, they have 42 sidewalk seats, 7 seats on the 7th Avenue shed in the street. They have 2 side street sheds with 16 seats for 82 seats, 82 additional seats in addition to their indoor. And the same thing on 8th Avenue with Lulu's, they have 122 additional seats, sidewalk, side street, avenue. And I think it's overkill.
Okay. Wendy?
Hi, let me unmute. I live right by that 17th area. I could not agree with you more. I know the restaurants that she's speaking of. Just outrageous. But I also would like to say thank you for mentioning things like bookstores not getting the same privilege at New York City's expense that these restaurants are often getting, at our cost, at our price, our property value. They're paying so much for so much space inside already. Now that they've doubled, and in this case, tripled their space, that property value should be paying for something more along the lines of the rats, the garbage, and all of that. So I wanted to say thank you to the person who had mentioned that. But the outdoor spaces, especially 7th and 8th Avenue, are out of control. So thank you for mentioning it. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, Wendy.
I'm glad you agree.
100%.
I think those comments are well taken, especially about just, I'm curious, Christine, and it's probably, some common knowledge. Has it been discussed about, restricting restaurants to a certain percentage of their indoor capacity outdoors? So it's just 10% across the board, or some cap, so as a matter of fairness, so that,
No, that was not discussed in any of the conversation I heard. What was discussed is first limiting to the frontage, right? So which I think if they limit to the frontage is going to resolve some of that. And the second thing is that the price is going to be high. I mean, if they put a consent fee, that is going to self-regulate, because if the price is such that, right now they are occupying all the place as an advertisement and it costs nothing, right? Mm-hmm. When you start to cost something, they're going to reduce naturally to what is yielding enough money to cover the cost. So I think that ratio in my mind, I think it makes sense. But at the same time, I think the new system is going to self-regulate a lot. And then if it continues to be ridiculous, then, then we can go and ask for a change. But we need to see, like, if they give them the same price as their internal real estate, and with maybe a little discount because it's outside and it's only 9 months of the year or whatever, that's going to be expensive. So it's going to be the same decision for these people to take, to say, how much space do I want, right? So I think we are going to probably be okay with that, probably. And if not, and I wanted to respond to these 2 community members and say, right now we had the street seats program and anybody could do it. You didn't have to be a restaurant to do the street seats. I don't know whether you are all familiar with that, but the street seats was essentially a cafe, but it was public. It was a public space. There was nobody serving, but it was sitting in the parking lane. And so my supermarket had started that, where they had seats outside. You could go inside, you would buy, you know, a takeaway stuff, and then you could come to the tables outside and eat it, or you could sit and wait while somebody else is doing the shopping. So it was very friendly, right? And I think one of the comments we had here is that we have to keep the public seating like the street seats. And the street seats are in front of non-restaurants. And then those could be free. I mean, you know, they are not free right now. They had a program where they were loaning them money to set it up. And it was a pretty good program. So are we all in sync?
I'd like to make a motion.
There's another hand, Liz Young. Sorry.
Ah, here we go. Now that's a popular subject. Hello.
Is street still going on? Because I don't see it anymore. That's why a point of information.
You know, it's not online. You can't apply to it online. But Liz Young, Liz, are you on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity. I'm wondering if there's any possibility of extending the time into November, since it's often very warm.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I put October. The reason was that when you start to have the holidays, right? So I don't know when is the time where the city declares like a moratorium on construction. So it should be at the same time, because that's the time when you have a lot of shopping, a lot of more people coming, you need more sidewalk. But yeah, I think I'm kind of okay with that. Okay, we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
We have a second? Yes.
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll make sure we circulate the document, and then you can comment back and forth. I'm exhausted.
Are we doing those last two, the traffic
No.
mitigation?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, does anybody want to talk about that?
No.
Not really.
So are we tabling?
I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion to table the last for next.
Okay.
I was
Right.
going to say, as chair of the board, I'll shut the meeting down if people want that to
This
happen.
is the way we do it at transportation.
But no one from
This
the
isn't-
public has any new business. I just want to confirm that no one from the public has any new business. Because I second that motion to adjourn otherwise.
Okay.
I third it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're
This
good.
Aye.
Thank
This
you,
is an
guys.
early
It was
out for this. today.
Beautiful.
Good night.
Great stuff.
Enjoy the warm weather coming up.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
On.
Christine, can I ask you a quick question afterwards?
Yeah, let me just say, don't go then. Okay.